Hey CS200 students, this is Sam Vinitsky. I will be walking through the rooms and trans data structures for BP2 because they seem to be giving people a lot of confusion, and we wanted to sort of help out with the understanding of what is going on with these array lists and what you're expected to do. So we have two array lists that are sort of keeping track of what's going on in the story file. So the first thing is rooms. Rooms is an array list, and each thing in the array list corresponds to one of the rooms. For example, in the Goldilocks story, maybe the first room is she saw the house. Second room is she knocked on the door and a bear came out. Last room is she fought the bears and died and then went to the hospital. And so each room has to be encoded somehow. There are things that we have to know about the room. We need to know the ID, like the ID number, the description, which is that string I was saying earlier, like she saw the house, she knocked and a bear came out, or she fought the bear and she died. And then also the title of the room, which is like Goldilocks' first encounter, a bear appears, death, death, death. And so these are stored in an array of length determined by the config file, and they're stored at indices determined by the config file. There's config.roomID, config. Some other things that tell you where these are. And so there's one of these string arrays for each room. So the big structure looks like this, where this is an array list of string arrays, and these are string arrays. Rooms is pretty straightforward, but still a little confusing. The harder one is the trans array. So trans, the idea is that each room, so when Goldilocks sees the house, we're prompting the user with some number of choices. So the trans array is going to store those choices. So each spot of the trans array corresponds to a spot from the rooms array. They're parallel arrays. So the first spot is the transitions for the first room, meaning the choices that the user will be able to make when given the first room. So there's some number of transitions. Maybe the first transition is Goldilocks walks up to the house. Maybe the second transition is Goldilocks throws a rock at the window. The last transition is Goldilocks calls the police and they come and raid the house. And so each of those transitions has a couple of things. There's the description, which I just said, which is prompting the user. That goes here. There's the destination ID, which is which room we're going to. So for example, if you knock on the door, you'll probably go to room 2, which is where Goldilocks knocked on the door. And then there's the probability, which I'm not going to talk too much about, but that only comes from weighted transitions, which are one type of transition that we'll deal with more in Milestone 3, but you should still understand and have stuff for now. And then, so this is the same thing. So there's one So each transition has these values. And so this is an array list of arrays. So each transition is encoded into an array with these values. Again, the length is determined by the config file, and their actual locations in the array is determined by the config file. But so the transitions are stored in this array list for the first room. The second room has a similar array list, maybe of a different length, maybe with different string arrays inside of it, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that this single array encodes all of the transitions for our entire story file. Again, just to reiterate, the first room's transitions are stored here in this array list, and each spot of this array list is a string array that corresponds to a single individual transition. Okay, that was a lot of information. Last thing is that, so parse story takes rooms and trans as input, but when you take them as input, they have not been filled out yet. So the job of parse story is to go through and fill these in according to these specifications, making sure you put things at the right spot and that things match up. And that is the difficulty, is not only figuring out how to go through the file, but figuring out the structure of this. So hopefully this video has helped you through understanding what the setup of these array lists are, and hopefully that'll make your next few days much smoother and will make your lives a lot better. So good luck with BP2. I believe in all of you.